Why is there a harbor seal walking around the office?
Oh, that's our new CEO.
Come again?
Well, apparently they didn't order through EasyCater for the board meeting, and when the food didn't arrive, they kind of lost focus. Next thing you know...
We have a seal as our CEO. Did I say something wrong?
No, she just wants a mackerel. Here you go.
Bad ideas happen when there's no food for the meeting. So make sure it's on time and as ordered from more than 80,000 restaurants. How? EasyCater.
Thank you. I just got promoted.
Order 24/7 on EasyCater.com.
Sports bettors, are you ready? Are you ready for a faster way to win? When you bet with PointsBet, you get faster bets, faster withdrawals, and faster rewards. Experience this premium sportsbook for yourself and sign up with code BETSWEATS, BETSWEATS, to get $100 in free bets when you deposit $20. Must be present in New Jersey, Indiana, Iowa, or Illinois. Must be 21 or older. Additional T's and C's apply. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER if in New Jersey and Illinois, 1-800-9-WITH-IT if in Indiana, 1-800-BETS-OFF if in Iowa.
Sports Radio 610 presents Clint Sterner and the Show. Clint Sterner's Football at 4.
Show, it's a rough day. It's another rough day in Houston for Deshaun Watson and the Deshaun Watson camp.
Yes.
That is for sure. We talked yesterday about a couple of bombs that were dropped, and the ones that I think actually moved the needle and gave a little bit of added detail that we didn't already know. And that was the fact that some direct messages were dropped that were revealed by Tony Busby, that one of the 18 individuals that vouched for, that was on Deshaun's side of the table, maybe didn't necessarily feel that way. Then there was another part of the direct messages that were revealed that was an actual go-between, an individual that worked closely with the Texans and Deshaun Watson in terms of scheduling some therapy. And she guessed, of all the players that are on the Texans, professional players, she guessed that the massage therapist was talking about Deshaun Watson before the therapist actually told her who she was talking about. I think both of those were revealing at the very least, and telling you where those individuals' mind is in terms of Deshaun Watson's, at least his habitual line stepping in therapy sessions. Those were the two major bombs. And then there was a statement from Rusty Hardin.
Go with it now.
And in that statement, he mentioned and even quoted some different parts of emails that were exchanged between Tony Busby's office and Rusty Hardin's office. And Deshaun Watson's representation before he hired Rusty Hardin. And his attempt was to discredit the one plaintiff that we heard from at the press conference, Ashley Solis, and Tony Busby, by saying and providing evidence that Deshaun Watson that the plaintiff asked for $100,000 as hush money,
because both of them had previously said that he is that they said it wasn't about money.
Well, the plaintiffs, they consistently bring up that this isn't about money. In every lawsuit, at every press conference, with every statement, it said this is not about money. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I thought it was low-hanging fruit that Rusty Hardin went after that aspect of the plaintiffs' lawsuits and their case they're building. I thought it was obvious. I thought it was a way to broad brush, really attack the credibility of the individuals involved. But I think in reality, you can look at the exchange, because like I said, it included emails between an associate of Tony Busby in his office and Scott Gaffield, who at the time, this is before Rusty Hardin was hired, at the time was general counsel for the agency that represents Deshaun Watson. And within these emails, I'm not going to go into all the emails, but within these emails, the general counsel for the agency that reps Deshaun Watson literally says that they're going to chalk that they're willing to take this as a learning experience for Deshaun Watson to not be involved with individuals that he doesn't know. But they acknowledge that that something happened,
Yes.
right? I mean, to me,
acknowledge something happened.
To me,
we're willing to say we'll pay.
We'll continue to negotiate here. We don't give you $100,000. We'll continue to negotiate here. Which to me, that would have been fine. That would have been okay. Look, we got a celebrity on our hands. We don't want any smoke. We'll pay you, but we ain't gonna give you six figures. But then to go on and say that it was a learning experience, and that this can be chalked up to a learning experience for Deshaun Watson. To me, that's acknowledging that there's a problem.
Yeah, what you got to learn for?
Right. That's acknowledging that there's a problem. That's acknowledging that something went wrong. When you're a $160 million quarterback, you shouldn't put yourself in a position where, with a massage therapist, your response is, we'll learn from this situation moving forward.
And the date on that, Clint, this is crazy to me. The date on that is February 9th. That's a conversation that's back and forth, those emails from February 9th, and I believe the following week as well. The part about that kills me, I remember when this all first happened, me and Courtney, my wife, were sitting down. She's like, well, I cannot believe that Deshaun Watson made a statement so fast claiming his innocence. Especially when you know February 9th, what you just read, had a back and forth from your lawyer and your representation to Tony Busby's that says within it, he can learn a lesson. We will continue to negotiate to pay money of someone who's accusing you of something. And in this, on March 16th, Deshaun says, I know this. I have never treated any woman with anything other than utmost respect. Why would you, who would allow him to say something like this or release a statement when a month before, Tony Busby, has that?
Yeah.
I mean, who would even, Tony Busby has, well, you've never treated anyone with the utmost respect? Well, sure as hell says here that your representation is willing to continue a settlement and that you've done something that you can learn from.
These comments and that one you just spoke of was before he hired Rusty Hardin, right?
Yeah, but who is
the general counsel, Scott Gaffield, clearly wasn't aware of the severity of the situation, as I don't think any of us were at this point to know where we're standing right now. But in terms of yesterday and this being a bomb show, I think it's not as big a bomb as the two ladies that the direct messages were revealed, right? But I do believe there's something there that Scott Gaffield, who originally was corresponding with Tony Busby before Deshaun hired Rusty Hardin, that he says we believed then and fully believe now that Deshaun learned a lesson about putting himself in this type of situation by interacting with people that he does not know. I don't – it's not a smoking gun, but it sure is a bad look. It sure is. I mean, it's one of those where I go, man, this is another one on Deshaun's side of the table that
but it's the second time, Clint. Every time he brings his ability to run some offense, so to speak,
right,
there's always something within it that also makes him look bad.
Right, exactly. That's where I'm going with it. Yes.
The last time, all right, I got 18 women who can vouch for him, but damn, you got 18 women along with the 22.
Yep.
And on this one, hey, money.
We don't.
But
well,
on the back end,
yeah. Well, they said the facts don't prove that Deshaun did anything wrong, but we'll learn from this situation, and we can't put ourselves in this position with people that we don't know, individuals that we don't know.
But he knew with that, because the point he wants to get out is they're saying it's not money, but they asked for $100,000 in hush. But he knew he had to include that part also. He couldn't leave that part out. And so Tony's rolling out, here's my evidence. Bam. Ain't no bad on my other end. Here's last two times, Rusty, damn, I gotta put this out here. But I am gonna catch a hit on the backside of it because it ain't all good.
When people on Deshaun Watson's side of the table are at the it don't matter the slightest, when they acknowledge that they had knowledge of or were aware of Deshaun Watson's, again, even if it's just being a habitual line stepper in therapy sessions, that's not a good look for the defense. That's not a good look for Rusty Harden and Deshaun Watson any way you slice it.
Blue 80, easy, white 90.
Take a quick break away from this Deshaun Watson chop, even though it's hot. It's breaking news. I get it. It's jumping everywhere, but every day. But, man, we got a draft coming up, and there's several quarterbacks getting discussed about being top 5 draft picks.
Oh, God.
And one of them,
here we go.
I'm fond of. Mac Jones. I'm fond of him. I think he's a good player. I think we may be taking it a little bit far, slotting him in at number 3. And a good friend of mine, Marcus Spears, he had some comments this morning as I was prepping for the show, and I said, I got to let the folks hear it. Finally, one of the big-time talking heads, which no disrespect, I'm a talking head, finally spits a little fire about these quarterbacks. This is Marcus Spears from earlier this morning.
Everybody knows how I feel about Mac Jones going 3, right? We at the point now where a guy is going to go 3rd because he fits. I get it. I've always thought that the 3rd pick was designated for guys that you thought were program changers. And then I hear Todd talk about the QBR and what he did under pressure. And by no means am I arguing because that's fact and that's true. But he played at Alabama. That is one of those stats to me that we can absolutely give to the fact of what was around him. If we are talking about Mac Jones being a fit in San Francisco, why are we not talking about Kyle Trask in the same way? But y'all, I still am going to reserve my thought to when you draft a player 3rd overall, it better be damn sure more than he fits, and he's going to take us to another level.
Preach, Brother Spears. There is no question about it, Show. I just, if you're talking about Mac Jones at 3, I think the Kyle Trask comparison is hitting it out of the park. It makes absolute perfect sense. And the comment about Alabama, about how if you're a quarterback at Alabama, you should not be able evaluators should not be able to give me stats about how they perform under pressure, because they're never under pressure, relatively speaking. Like, if you want to talk about Kyle Trask numbers from Florida about when he was under pressure, okay, I'm in on that. He spent the majority of Saturday afternoons on his back. And, I can't get there, Show. I can't get there where Mac Jones goes 3 to San Francisco. I can't do it. And I was going to let it. I was going to let a sleeping dog lie. I was going to just move on beyond it, not have that conversation today. And I'll be damned if Spears didn't get me stirred up.
Before I got my life changed by soda weight loss, I thought a lot of people thought that I favored Marcus Spears, that I had a look.
How do you take my football at 4 and spin it?
I had a look.
That's about 4 segments today that he somehow spun back to him.
That I've had a look like Marcus Spears. That look may be different.
You don't look nothing like Marcus Spears. Looked like he ate 2 of you.
Now, hold on, so now before I had a look that was similar to it. I've never agreed with Marcus Spears more in my life at that statement. When did it? The number 3 pick. You have to. That guy, if I'm taking a quarterback there, has to be able to do everything to a point where it doesn't matter what system he's in. He can be successful, at least successful in a system, right? If he could do anything, he could be. It don't matter what system Patrick Mahomes is in, he can be successful. It doesn't matter what system Aaron Rodgers is in, he can be successful. Not saying you're going to hit that every time, but if I'm drafting number 3, I'm not saying, I'm going to draft him because he fits this system. I'm drafting him because I believe he's a program changer and he can play at anything.
This guy,
I don't see that out of Mac Jones.
This guy physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, if I can get this guy, I'm the head coach. I'm the evaluator. I'm responsible for quarterback play. If I can get this guy to play at or above his ceiling, then this guy can go out on Sunday and win games for me. Single-handedly win games for me. Give me a huge advantage. I'm not convinced Mac Jones is even remotely in that world right now.
That's insane to me.
His arms are like an inch and a half shorter than you want.
They really feel like they are. The Texans made a really interesting, would be putting it mildly, move with their roster about 20 minutes ago. We'll let you know who is no longer on the Texans. That's next.
Sports Radio 610 presents Clint Sterner and the Show.
All right, the Texans, they have made themselves a move. Nick Caserio, Jack Easterby and company, they've made a move with P.J. Hall. The Texans are terminating their qualifying offer to P.J. Hall. I'd say P.J. Hall, Clint, while he was healthy before he went out with the pec, was the best defensive lineman, the most impressive defensive lineman, or defensive tackle. I'm sorry, JJ. Defensive tackle that played for the Texans last.
Sports Radio 610, Houston Texans breaking news.
All right, Tyler, T. Sleazy, T. Money. He's got the breaking news. What do you have for us?
HEB has released a statement on Deshaun Watson. Everybody loves HEB. HEB says their relationship with Deshaun Watson ended with the Texans' 2020 season, and there are no plans for future engagement with the quarterback.
All right, no plans. They're ending, no plans to go forward with their partnership. It was supposed to end. It ended in 2020. I would think if this wasn't going on, if this situation wasn't going on with Deshaun Watson, that HEB would be interested in continuing their partnership with Deshaun Watson.
Yes, I would think so. I mean, hell, there was last year you had Justin. Damn, my mind just been blank. Just Reed. They had Justin Reed, Will Fuller, DeAndre Hopkins was in them before, wasn't he? When he caught the sushi with the chopsticks, I think, wasn't that HEB?
Yes. J.J. Watt.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that there was some kinds of plans in the works for this coming season, even with a 4-12 record. Hell, even more so with the shape the Texans are in. Deshaun Watson was probably going to be more of a centerpiece for HEB because there's just not very many superstars on the roster right now. So, yeah, I would.
What we damn sure know is that HEB hadn't announced until today that he wasn't going to be a part of the plans.
Well, I think that was the same thing with Reliant. I think Reliant said, wasn't it Reliant? It was the one that came out and said that they had it was due to end. Their contract was due to end this year anyway, and they didn't plan to re-up it anyway. So, again, just whether they're suspending like Nike, their relationship, or they're completely bailing like
Beats by Dre,
or this company here, HEB, just saying, look, we didn't have any more plans in the future. Just to make it clear,
like here, we're not a part of that.
We're not a part of this. They're all going to distance themselves from what's going on with Deshaun Watson right now. That's not to say that if he doesn't,
who's in those commercials now?
Mark Ingram,
Tyrod Taylor,
Cooks.
Okay, yeah, Cooks is in it.
Justin Reed. You don't leave the quarterback.
They might just run with all the Astros fellas, guys.
So, no, they got
a good point.
They're going to do those jalapeno popper commercials. Those popper commercials. You're right. Brandon Cooks and Justin Reed is safe. Brandon Cooks is in.
I could see Laramie Tunsil chowing down on an HEB.
This is Laramie's time.
I could see an HEB commercial with Laramie Tunsil. I could see Laramie Tunsil sitting down with Titus Howard and giving him some good big boy schooling with HEB as their title.
Yes, 713-572-4610. Text in if you got to pick your three who are going to be on the commercials. God, you just rattled them off. JJ was in them before.
Yeah, DeAndre
Hopkins was in it. Will Fuller. Deshaun, who they've terminated, or they are not picking up their
HEB. I'm throwing you a bone. I'm throwing you a free one here. If there's not an HEB commercial next year that has Laramie Tunsil,
he's got to be with it.
And look, you give him Laramie Tunsil on one side of the table, maybe at the head of the table, sitting in a big like king's chair.
You're putting together. Oh, let's hear this. You're putting together.
And the other big guys, Titus Howard, right?
That's it.
Sitting on one side. And then maybe you go Ross Black, all the guys that like, hey, you got to keep coming, right?
Ooh, Ross in there.
You got to keep coming. And then maybe you can let like Max Sharping be the server, like serving the food.
I don't think Max could be in it.
He's serving the food for crying out loud.
He's ready. I don't think Max is.
Can Coach Cully be in it?
Oh, that's good.
Maybe he should be. Maybe he should be serving
pretty
the food.
good, Sleazy. Yeah.
Maybe he should be serving the food.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Anyway, take the big guys, Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard as your main
I like
two
those
guys.
two.
As if Laramie Tunsil's teaching him a lesson about, hey, here's how you do hamburgers. Here's how you do hot dogs, young fellas. Here's how you play tackle in the NFL. Here's how you do your grocery shopping. You go to HEB.
Hit me with it.
I mean, that's
Someone texted in, John Weeks could be a part of this, doing something fun, the longest tenured.
I feel like Big Truss has got to make an appearance.
You're right, though, man. That Mark Ingram, this is him.
Big Truss.
That's what I was thinking. Him and Tunsil, because this is obviously Laramie Tunsil's time. Those two together, that would be. That'd be.
I think Mark just walks in at the end and says, "Thank you, LT." After he sits there and schools all the.
No, he's got to do his thing.
This has Academy Award potential.
Big Trust says.
I like where this is going.
And there's no question. HEB, can I get a little kickback?
But you know how serious.
I just want free groceries. I want
this.
free groceries for a year for me and my wife.
Wow, just a year.
That's it.
And I'll take 6 months. But you know how serious.
You don't get free groceries for my idea. Hell.
You know how serious Laramie Tunsil would be at this.
Oh, it'd be great.
I mean, he would be bringing it. He would be like, no, that take's not good enough. Come back. No, let's do it again, Frank.
How's he not been in one to this point?
I don't know. He's had to jump over. There's some other guys he's had to jump. He wasn't jumping Deshaun. Justin Reed deserves it.
Is the draft night fiasco still scaring him a little bit?
No, we're past that.
We're past that?
We're past that.
Okay.
No, we're past that.
The what?
I think.
The
draft night with the gas
mask with Laramie.
Oh, the gas mask is the least of the Texans' worries right now.
Or HEB. Yeah. This is
yeah,
his
or
time.
HEB for that matter.
But that's one person we know who won't be in the HEB commercials is PJ Hall. That is, and he is. He seems like the guy that could be. You've talked about it, PJ Hall. If you're just missing it, PJ Hall was offered. He was offered a qualifying offer, and he was going to get paid about 2.1, so not a lot of money. And now they have terminated today. The Texans have terminated their qualifying offer to PJ Hall, who you could argue, and I would flat out say was their best defensive tackle last year before he got injured with the pec injury. And to think he seemed like he fit the build of a guy that could be a diamond in the rough that you could have signed and gotten. And found gold there, and they've just
so
said,
he's a guy. I mean, maybe I'm missing something. I don't know about these tender type offers, but I mean, man, you could restructure his deal and save $500,000, but give him a meal guaranteed. You know what I mean? You could have that was a perfect restructure to give him some guaranteed money if you wanted to restructure and save a little bit of money.
I mean, hell, you just saved $35. When you
think about everybody, what would half a meal be? Right, you're right. Yeah, this is.
There's something. It feels like something else occurred.
Agreed.
That led to this because, like he said it, man, we're going to hit singles and doubles. And if you think about the guys that are already on the roster that the Texans already have, how many of those guys would you say this could be more than a single or a double guy? And I would have said PJ Hall. A second-round pick, still young, from Sam Houston State, still young. What he showed last year, that could be a guy who could be a big-time player, potentially an above-average player at defensive tackle. I don't go crazy and say big-time, but above-average player.
Sports Radio 610, Houston Texans breaking news.
Breaking news. Tyler, what do you got, boss?
So Jasmine Brooks, we have learned that she is one of the 18.
Yes.
Okay, she has posted on her Instagram story. I'm not going to read it all, but it says in part, "Hey guys, I'm sure many of you are aware of the recent news regarding Deshaun Watson, an athlete I formerly worked with. My name has been mentioned in evidence manipulated to be used against him. The following post serves as my statement." She goes on to say the message thread is a conversation between herself and a close friend, and she shares the entire thread. She is saying that she was misrepresented yesterday by Busby in the DMs that he presented.
All right, coming out again
That's
to
juicy.
try to defend Deshaun Watson. That is what's her Jazz
Brooks.
Jazz Brooks.
I mean, this
Jazz Brooks _.
Yeah, I mean, this is a to me this is the biggest bomb from yesterday, and whether she was or was not misrepresented, we can now
take
dig
a look
into
at her statement.
Yeah,
She's
absolutely.
got it up on her.
Wow,
but we'll see. Because the words that he put out, it's tough to look and say how could that be misconstrued? But we'll take a look at it. Jasmine Brooks coming out and coming to the defense of Deshaun Watson, supporting him again. All right, we'll look at that full text or full exchange, direct message exchange, and we'll give you the latest on what's going on in this situation. The person, Jazz Brooks, that Tony Busby said she sounded different when she spoke publicly than she did privately, has come out and put out a statement against what Tony Busby said yesterday. All that coming up next.
Sports Radio 610 presents Clint Sterner and the Show. Sports Radio 610, Houston Texans breaking news.
All right, breaking news. Maybe the most damaging thing that we heard yesterday from the press conference was Tony Busby had DMs from one of the 18 women that Rusty Hardin brought forward who said they had no issues when they've worked with Deshaun Watson. Jazz Brooks was one of them, and he read a DM passage that showed that her thoughts were otherwise. Jazz Brooks has, on her own Instagram, in a story, she has expressed this: "Hey guys, I'm sure many of you are aware of the recent news regarding Deshaun Watson and an athlete I formerly worked with, and may have heard my name mentioned in evidence manipulated to be used against him. The following post serves as my statement regarding the allegations and misinformation that has been circulating around the media." In this thread, the message thread is a conversation between myself and one of my closest friends. I simply shared that I have already stopped working with Deshaun for reasons unrelated to his current pending cases, and that the last few months I have been hearing various things from other therapists who have also worked on him numerous times. However, none of those reasons included any of these accusations he's facing now, as I had no knowledge of any of those accusations prior to the news break. And then also later she says, as far as the esthetician, there was an esthetician in September that posted Watson's phone number, and on her public Instagram page, my warning to Deshaun was that he needs to be more careful with whom he works with, because he doesn't know everybody's intentions, and some people will use his name for publicity, just as they are now. That is from Jazz Brooks. No post of the actual conversation, which she also alludes to saying that it was taken out of context. But that is her coming back on what Tony Busby brought to the table yesterday, which many people thought was the most damning thing we heard.
Yeah, I thought that for sure. I thought it was a problem, right?
Well. Yep.
But when you look at if you look at the original direct message or text messages, I think it's actually a text message that Tony Busby read from yesterday. I think there's 3 problems in that text message. When she says, "I told you I stopped working with him," right? That's problem number 1. She addressed that in her Instagram, and she says that the reason that she stopped working with Deshaun Watson is because essentially he was working with other therapists and didn't like following up other therapists, didn't like trying to fix an athlete and at the same time, there's other therapists telling him different things that he needs to do and different methods to fix the problem. It's just like if you're working with a quarterback trainer, one guy may have a certain method and a message and things you need to work on, and the next one would feel differently. So in our world, we go, hey, if you go over there, that's fine. You go work with that guy, that's fine. But I would encourage you to find one guy and work with him and get the best out of it. That's how I see that. So the one problem where she says in her text message that Tony Busby read, I told you I stopped working with him. I think she explained why she stopped working with him. The second problem was she said she stopped working because she was hearing too much stuff about him messing with other people. That too explains she didn't want to follow up other massage therapists. The only part of this that to me she didn't address in her Instagram post is at the very end when she says, I just hope don't nobody call me to question me. Yeah. That's one of those that I don't know if you're just no longer working with him because you don't want to follow up other therapists. Totally get that. But if somebody calls you, that's an easy answer, right? Yeah. If the reason, if the things that you've been hearing is that he's working with other therapists and you don't want to follow him up, again, very, very easy to explain away. So I thought it's an admirable, attempt to explain that she feels like her texts have been taken out of context.
Yeah, and I think I think she helped the situation, but it's also, I agree. She helped the situation, but it's also not a surprise. She's obviously in the Watson camp, right? She's obviously with Rusty Hardin in terms of Rusty Hardin initially. She was one of the 18 who Rusty Hardin released. So it is not surprising, as Amy Dash, who was on with us, said earlier, this was the biggest the biggest bomb that dropped in this, the most damning evidence that she would come back today to try to refute that. Now, I think it helped, but it's also something that you shouldn't be surprised by when she's in the camp.
Yeah, the other thing, Show, that I think she answered when I said part of the text that Busby read was because I was hearing too much stuff about him messing with other people. She did clarify in these Instagram posts that the problems or the things she was hearing has nothing to do with these accusations or anything that the plaintiffs said that.
Which I think helps. Which I think helps.
I think big picture, Jazz Brooks putting out this Instagram message and explaining how her text was taken out of context by Tony Busby. I definitely think it's helpful. It clears some things up. It reiterates the game that once again Tony Busby is playing. But again, that the very last part. I just hope don't nobody call me to question me. If these are all legit explain-aways, essentially, then
because what she's saying is, and if you're just joining us, Jazz Brooks, the woman that Tony Busby said was speaking differently in public than she was privately. I think the part that is an issue there is she made it appear from her Instagram post that her words were taken out of context. The conversation was taken out of context. But that part there is hard to explain because that doesn't sound like the same conversation you're having when you're talking about, he's just working with too many other different therapists and we're not on the same page on how to help him. That part of the conversation doesn't seem to jive or circulate with, I sure hope nobody comes to talk to me about it.
Yeah. Yeah, but it clears up the text, and again, it's another court of public opinion show where it's a jab not from Deshaun, not from his camp, but definitely from somebody that I would say in some form or fashion has represented his side of the table in this case, clearing some things up and doing it on a personal level via her Instagram, and
I'd be surprised if this didn't. I mean, I'd be surprised if this didn't come from the Watson team. This plan for her to do this. Me, I'm not going to say I guarantee, but I would be surprised if this release from her, because like Amy Dash said, we all said that was the most damning thing to hear.
Yeah,
and I wouldn't be surprised to say we've got to start to do something to slow this down and to change this narrative. And so you come out.
Well, that's the one thing we don't know, right? Show is that, I mean, nobody's under oath in these situations. And so really anything goes. Anything can be said on either side, on both sides, and you know, in representation of both sides, or let's say any of the plaintiffs or the defendant, you know, the Deshaun Watson in this case. So anything can be said. Nobody's under oath. We don't, you know, you can't try to determine whether something's true or false. You got to take it at surface for what's being said. And I think this is I think after reading the Instagram message from Jazz Brooks and putting it up next to the text that Tony Busby read yesterday, I would say this is a pretty solid move by Jazz Brooks to explain away one screenshot of text message. Boy, I tell you what, if I was Jazz and I knew who, clearly this is one of her best friends.
Oh, yeah, I'm hot. Whoever.
Because that right there, I mean, just the screenshot of the text messages that Tony Busby read, that looks like a setup. Like, yeah, why? Like, explain to me why you quit working with Deshaun, and then you take and you run and you give that text that screenshot to an individual. Like, I'm not saying her friend did it. I mean, anybody could have screenshot it and sent it to their own phone and moved on. It could have been done any kind of way. But boy, you talk about, I'd have a serious heart-to-heart with a friend of mine for letting them texts get out there like that.
No, yeah, it's so that is I think that is the latest. Jazz Brooks refuting what Tony Busby, the attorney for the 22 plaintiffs, brought forth about her private DMs, and I think that's just the big thing, that this is an offensive move from the Watson camp that makes, I think, to many people at least question Tony Busby's how he's going about things. If you didn't, but at least questioning that, and I think they look, if it's not just but a tad bit better, they do look better than they did.
Well, this
5 minutes
show,
ago.
let's think about
10
it.
minutes ago.
Let's think about it though, right? When Rusty Harden issued a statement yesterday after the press conference, we looked at each other. We talked about the low-hanging fruit. We talked about, that's your response? All of what we just watched from the press conference, and your response is, yeah, they tried to get us for $100,000. This is really about money. What did we talk about yesterday? Like, he's not going to, in a statement, respond to everything that happened in an hour-long press conference, right? You're probably right that this is an orchestrated effort to respond to that particular.
That was the thing they had to. Like, we were sitting there saying, man, y'all didn't respond to that?
Right.
Yesterday, they had that was the one.
And this is a much more effective way to respond to it than if Rusty Harden were to put out a statement and respond to those direct messages. Well, they had to figure out something. They had to come up with something. Right.
They had to come up with a game plan.
What's next?
And it took them a while, but they came up with their plan for Jazz Brooks to come out. Come on, man. Listen, we found out who she was, right? And we tried to look her up.
Yep.
Couldn't get to her.
It was private.
It was private.
Before the show today, her Instagram was private.
We found out. We get the breaking news. Bang. That thing's unprivate.
Oh, shit. I mean,
there was she wanted it. It wanted to become public. Like, yeah. And I'm not kidding. It's the right play from Rusty. They had to try to change the narrative on that. I'm curious.
You had to at least comment on it.
You had to. I feel like you had more than comment. You had to bring something to the table to say, no, that ain't true, right? And I'm curious. You could text in 713-572-4610. When you hear that, when you hear Jazz Brooks come out and say, from her own words, that Tony Busby, the attorney, misconstrued her words and took her out of context, and that the reason that she said she stopped working with Deshaun is just because he had worked with multiple other therapists and he didn't like coming behind people. She also said that other clients she had took precedent over Deshaun, and that she has never known anything that he's been accused of, never experienced that, never heard that. When you hear her statement against Tony Busby, did that change anything for you? Did that change anything with that? Did that make you think, oh, okay, maybe Tony Busby's screwing around with this, or are you still feeling the same way you did about the situation before you heard Jazz Brooks' comments?
No, I mean, I don't feel the same. I think every time something like this comes out and we're sitting on an island and nobody's under oath, we don't know what's true and what's not. I do think that every time something like this comes out, you got to take it into consideration. You got to weigh it, and it doesn't stay the same. I guess is my point. Like, it's none of these things. Like, you can't sit there and go. I mean, I guess you can if you want to, but you can't sit there and go, oh, we'll just wait till it goes to court. We'll just wait till they're under oath. I mean, that's what fun is that, right? I mean, when it's all said and done, like, there's no way that this coming out doesn't move you one direction or the other. It either clears things up for you, or it muddies the waters for you, right? There's no way to look at the individual that the text messages were taken from. It's one snapshot. Tony Busby gets up there and reads it, where literally whoever she was talking to only texted once and said, yeah, why? And she answered it in 4 different bubbles. And then on the backside of that individual comes out and says, I feel like I was taken out of context. Here's what really took place.
And this is
I don't know how you sit there and go, oh, well, now that don't change things. Yeah, no, I mean, it does. She explains away what was
She explains away her explanation for most of everything that Tony tried to push off as, and I think successfully pushed off,
yes,
as claims that she is talking differently when she was backing up Deshaun as opposed to her in private. I think she was able to answer a lot of those, except for the one where,
agreed,
in the message that we got from Tony Busby, what he read, that, hey, I hope nobody come talking to me about him. That part of it was not addressed. And from what she addressed and said all those other things meant, when you put that together, combined with that at the end, that doesn't make sense in terms of context of a conversation. That's the only part where I think she didn't explain away.
I wonder if this is going to be a series of coordinated strikes, right? I mean, you get the statement from Rusty Harden taking a shot at Busby and Solis in terms of they asked for $100,000, which again I think we can say, well, that's a lame response and all that, but ultimately it's a very broad brush attack on the two individuals that were highlighted the most yesterday, that are stirring the emotions more than anybody else at this point in time. And it was a broad brush attack on their credibility that is very specific, very black and white, very obvious that it's about money. And they constantly say it's not. Well, now if they follow it up with this, and then somehow, let's say which she didn't even put a name out there, so she had to put her name on it, but the individual that was the go-between for Deshaun Watson and said she was close to the team and she scheduled some of his therapy, the second bomb that we talked about yesterday, let's see if that individual drops a statement or some kind of explanation of how and why she guessed it was Deshaun Watson when a therapist contacted her and said she had problems with an individual. How did she immediately guess Deshaun Watson?
Yeah.
And how did those direct messages leave us in a place that's the first thing that jumped off the page?
And Big Dog, I won't say this. I hope they have this thing with Jazz Brooks and her messages and conversations with people closed up better than they have on other things, because you know Tony's not going to just sit here and let this lay. Like, I hope they have a handle on what the rest of the conversation looked like, because she said she was taken out of context, is what she claims.
Yes.
And if Tony Busby has a bullet in the chamber that shows something different, he will not be afraid to fire that. All right, listen, this thing has been detrimental to Deshaun Watson in a major way, but today reached completely new heights. We'll discuss that coming up next.
Why is there a harbor seal walking around the office?
Oh, that's our new CEO.
Come again?
Well, apparently they didn't order through EasyCater for the board meeting, and when the food didn't arrive, they kind of lost focus. Next thing you know?
We have a seal as our CEO. Did I say something wrong?
No, she just wants a mackerel. Here you go.
Bad ideas happen when there's no food for the meeting. So make sure it's on time and as ordered from more than 80,000 restaurants. Now, EasyCater.
Thank you. I just got promoted.
Order 24/7 on EasyCater.com.
Clean, safe, local. Your home for business is the Village of Bedford Park. Over 450 businesses strong and growing with a safe, reliable Lake Michigan water supply. Visit VOBPBiz.com and bring your business home to the Village of Bedford Park.